Okay. Well, again, thank you all for joining. Again, if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind putting your computers or phone on mute to minimize the background noise, that will be great. But we have our first question from Gary Brierly. And Gary's, I'm not sure if you can see, it's a picture of his Bug Eye Sprite behind him. It's in a body shop. Unfortunately, he had some rear end damage. Someone backed into his car. So David, I said David, I said Gary, I apologize. Dave Brierly. Dave, you want to give us some history and background in your question regarding your windshield?
Sure. Mine is a 1960. The windshield, when I bought the car, had an early under 5,000 serial number windshield with the lift the dot type, and I like the kind of the lightness of it, the design of it, and so I just have kept it. And plus, I have the top that goes with it, and so that's the windshield that I want to replace the glass in. And I've got the windshield off, as you can see, it's in the frame. I've got the new gasket for the lower edge, the windshield to body already. I've got the seal here that I bought, both of them from Moss Motors, and the windshield's coming by separate shipment from Moss also for that particular style windshield, the age of it. So, because as I understand it, the dimensions are a little bit different. So, but I'm going to stick with the early one because I like the look of it.
Yeah, those were in 1958. They had those with the 9 dots, Dave.
Yeah. So I understand that's 5,000 and something, I think, for the number of them, and this was put on there. And I guess as an aside, when I'm having the car fully repainted, as you can see in the background, and I've also read that the side pillars of the windshield should be the color of the body too. And I wanted to confirm that with you all. But my main thing in questioning and getting the word out here is how to replace the glass. I've done some searching on the internet. I get some information, but I've never done it, and I don't know whether I should try it or whether I should turn it over to the body shop or a glass company and let them tackle it. I'd hate to crack it.
Hey, where do you live?
But I'm stumped as to even to how to get the old windshield glass out, short of breaking it out, which I don't want to do. Right. So it looks like once I remove the 2 side pillars from the windshield frame, that may give me a removable, like the lower part of the windshield frame might be separate. I'm not sure.
Have you been able to remove those 3 screws on the side of the pillar, Dave?
I haven't yet. No. The couple of them I've looked at are pretty well mangled. So I'm hoping I can get them out, and then I'm going to replace them with stainless steel screws.
Yeah, and that's going to be a challenge. I would make sure you get those lubricated. They rust in there, and they're a bear.
Then make sure you're well lubricated.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
So Dave, are you applying for the Eagles' new head coaching position?
I am. I can't do any worse. So.
So David, do you have a 58 Sprite by the chance?
Mine's a 60, but I just did my windscreen. I don't know that your frame is in 2 pieces, but I took mine to a shop to have them do it. I didn't futz with it.
Okay.
That certainly is the easy way out.
Where do you live?
In Mystic, Connecticut area.
I'm outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. Yeah. So I just had a Sprite window redone by a guy in, it's Anawan Glass, but he's in Attleboro, Massachusetts. He was great. And he can even do glass that, it sounds like you have your own glass, but he can even match the numbers on the glass. If you're really a purist, he can get the, kind of get the glass that for Classic Cars that does that, but he
It's
was
like
inexpensive, $100.
Attleboro and
good.
heartbeat.
Well, that may be maybe I'll start soaking those, the side pillar screws now, and then this looks like the whole project's going to take a while. So maybe I can
Mhm.
get them nicely lubricated and hopefully freed up so I can get them out and see maybe whether to tackle it or whether to follow what one of you just suggested, taking
Yeah,
it to a professional.
So Alan, so they did it for $100, and that was, you supplied the screen and you supplied the frame, is that right?
Yeah, I had everything. I had I did the same thing. I got moss. I bought a couple of the seals, and actually the seals I had were good enough. He said, you don't really need to replace these. They're new enough. But it was inexpensive, and
Remind me.
I didn't want to break it. You know,
Outstanding
everything I
deals.
read
And
online is it's easy to break. It's easy to break those the glass.
Yeah. What
So
is the name of the shop again in Agawam?
it's called Anawam Glass and Mirror Company, and it's in Attleboro, Massachusetts. I can send the information that.
Yeah, Alan, can you post that in the chat?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, if you would, please.
And as to your first question, the pillars are body color. Your
Okay,
side-
good.
Your side pillars should be body color.
What do you
Okay,
call
good.
it? The insulation strips. Green the glass.
Now, if how do you remove the glass from the frame?
Let them do all that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? If you're gonna pay him, just have him do it. I mean, you don't. He'll take care. I mean, well, those guys. It's the hard part is finding a glass company, and it took me I had to go through 3 guys to get to somebody.
Yeah.
To do this. I even talking to Pete, I think I called Mansfield Glass, and then I end up, I found out a glass company that this guy used to work for, and they sent me to him because he does classic cars, right? And that's the whole thing. You got to find a glass guy who knows how to do classic cars, because it's not the
Okay.
same as doing a 2020 American car or whatever. It's a little bit.
Safe Flight ain't gonna work.
No, I tried those guys. They won't call you back. They don't even know what the heck is that. It's like calling Liberty Mutual and asking for insurance. It's like, oh my God, no. So anyway, I had really good luck with them. I can dig out the name. The guy, it's a small shop, but he does all kinds of glass stuff, but it worked out great.
Well, that sounds like the safest way to go.
And that's just over the border. Attleboro is the first town in Massachusetts. So David, you can be there in about an hour
Okay.
from where you are.
I mean,
Yeah,
there might be somebody closer to you. I don't know, but but it's not that far.
Bird in the hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got it on the computer?
What's
I'm
that?
sorry, someone had a question?
Oh, sorry. It was Mike. Never mind.
Okay, Mike. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting your phone on mute, Mike, when you're not speaking, that'd be great. So thank you.
Yeah, if I can figure it out.
Well, thank you, Dave. Any other questions you may have?
Here it is.
No, I that's the most pressing one. I
Okay.
think that so I appreciate the input from you guys. And
I don't know how
thank
it
you.
differs from 100, but I'll tell you from having cracked my first windshield, it was real important to mark the center of the glass and the center of the frame and make sure you get it centered before you start trying to pull it together. I don't know how that differs though. But
Okay.
on 100, it's critical.
So Dave, did you see that? Alan posted it on the chat on Zoom, the details.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so just go to the chat function, and then you have all the details, phone number, address, and the name of the company.
Oh, fantastic.
Great. Well, thanks, Alan, as well. Appreciate that. I'm not familiar with that, so we'll make sure to get that information and update that and get that onto our vendor list as well. So that's great to know. So thanks for.
I'm trying to
all.
pull together. I don't know if you guys have done this already, but a list of shops and companies that can do things like try putting. It took me a while to find somebody who could put the tire on the spindle, right? Because it's Not everybody, it's like, you gotta, it's, as you all know, I mean, this is like a dying art, right?
So Alan,
I'm just trying to
go to the
find that.
members, Alan, the members
Yep.
only section of the website. We have a list there of all the preferred vendors that people have
Oh, okay.
recommended.
Okay.
So go to the website, the members only section. And again, if anyone on this call has recommendations of things you see there that are not on there, please send me a note on that and we'll keep that list updated.
What was the problem he was having with mounting the spindle or whatever?
The spare tire, the tire, wire wheels.
You mean balancing them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both.
Well, they have to be coned from the inside.
Yeah, he didn't. Well, I had, so I also own this big backhoe, and this guy, so the guy who did the backhoe actually was able to put the tire on for me, and he balanced it, but he didn't have the cone. I don't think he had the cone. He said, "I don't know if this is going to work, but this might help you." So at least it got the tire onto the wheel. He said, you have to put it on the car and see if it works, but because finding people with that cone technology,
The cones are part of the balancing machine. They all have them. They're
Right.
universal. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a tapered cone that goes on the shaft before you put the wheel on.
Bert, that won't work. You have to have.
That's Bob
what
Abbott.
looks like-
Bob told us what to do. Go ahead, Bob.
You have to have what looks like the spline that you mount it on. I had to take, and well, on my balance machine, I took a spline and took it to a machine shop and cut it down and then had it drilled exactly the right size for the shaft so that the wheel is held on your balance machine exactly like it's held on the spline when you have the tire mounted on your car. So you have to have two pieces. You have to have the spline cut so that it'll fit over your shaft on the balance machine, and then you have to use the knockoff end on the outside of it, and then lock it all down. And if you don't, you won't get the tire centered on there right, and you'll get a false balance.
I have this. I did the
Yeah,
same. I did the same thing you did. I took an old spline and a
Right.
knockoff, and I had a machine shop drill a hole in the outside
Right.
so you can put the spline and the knockoff on. But I always thought as long as you coned it from the inside, you'd be okay.
No. It's gotta
Inside
be
and out.
held from the outside with the knockoff,
Okay.
just like it's mounted on the car. So you had the right idea, taking a hub and cutting it down, or a spline and cutting or having it drilled to fit the machine. You have to do both of them.
Who the heck has that?
Anytime you buy a wire wheel, it should come with a diagram and instructions for how to balance it. I know that any wire wheels we get from Hendrix comes with a set of instructions on how to balance it.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they tell you in their instructions.
Bob hasn't mentioned it, but Bob can do that. If you need balancing, Bob can do that.
Yep. Ipswich, Mass. So Dave Berube, I believe you're on the line and you have our second question. And you're in the process of replacing your clutch, and you want to ask your question to the group?
Yeah, I'm in the process of getting an engine rebuilt, and when that swap occurs, might as well change the clutch. And I just was wondering about flywheels. I've seen some advertisements, I guess, and about lightened flywheels. And I was wondering if the group had any experience. Is it worth it? That kind of question.
And do you have a 6-cylinder Healy, Dave?
Yeah, it's a BJ8. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Anyone have experience with lightning wheels, flywheels on 6-cylinder BJ8?
Not on the BG8, but a friend of mine in Minnesota had that done to his Spitfire 6-cylinder engine flywheel combination, and he calls it a Spit 6. But he is a former SCCA racer, and he likes the feel of the lightened flywheel.
Now, did he lighten it, Dave, or did he put an aluminum flywheel on?
I believe he lightened it. I could check further if there's an interest in it.
When my 100 engine was rebuilt, they took a lot of weight off the flywheel, and it revs up a lot quicker and runs better.
When my 104 was rebuilt, Gabe and Peter, they knocked 3.5 pounds or something like that off of it, and makes it rev up a little faster and a lot more responsive. Yeah, so seems to be
Wow.
common. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever watch Wheeler Dealers,
Yep.
but they just like 2 weeks ago he rebuilt the TR4, and he rebuilt the engine, and he moved. He shows you, he goes from he adds these things in, but that was one of the things he talked about was putting a lighter flywheel on, and that I think that's a 4-cylinder engine anyway.
It
So
is.
to have that instead of the big heavy cast iron or steel one that they had on it, and it makes the car, obviously, if it's just less mass. the engine's got to turn to get it,
Now-
to get it started.
Now, Dave, are you doing any other performance enhancements to your engine?
No, pretty much just a stock motor.
Okay. And stock exhaust and,
Yep, yes, standard. Didn't
Okay.
go with anything high end or anything like that.
okay.
Leave it alone.
Yeah, I'm not, a little more performance will come just by the fact that it's rebuilt and I got compression in all my cylinders and so forth and so on. So yeah, I wasn't too worried about that. So going along with that, then didn't sound like anything negative. Is that just a machine shop type of thing that does flywheel lightning?
You can buy them. The aluminum ones you're going to buy, right? You're not, the machine shop's going to mill a. If you can find somebody who can do it too, right? Because that's a little bit of an art.
Do they have aluminum flywheels?
That's what he put on the car.
I have an aluminum flywheel on one of my Sprites.
Yeah. It's a steel ring, but it's aluminum
Better
flywheel.
be a pretty hard aluminum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bob Abbott, what's your experience with lightning flywheels?
Never had it done to an engine I rebuilt. Not that I have anything against it. It certainly will allow it to spin up a little quicker. But I think that the downside would be that a 4-cylinder engine might be a little lumpy on the idle now because it doesn't have that mass keeping everything going around and around and around.
Yeah, Dave's got a
I know
6-cylinder.
6 cylinders wouldn't be affected anywhere near as much with the lumpiness in the idle.
Yeah, my four cylinder is a little lumpy at low speed.
Yeah.
How about Ted Cryer? Did you notice any difference with yours?
Yeah, I think it's snappier, but so much was done to the car at that point, the engine at that point, it was really no comparison. But everything was also balanced. The entire spinning drivetrain was balanced. So
Yeah.
that's another question. If you do have it lightened at a machine shop, should you have it balanced? So I certainly like the way it all came out, though.
And does Gabe still do that? Do you know, Ted?
Yeah, I think so. There's actually a machine shop about a half a mile away that they've worked with for 30 years or so. And I've known for 40, and he does all the machine work for them. Or Peter, who is his lead mechanic, master mechanic, he has his own some capability for doing machine work also at his house, which is a half a mile away. So,
So Dave Berube, that's Highland Automotive in New York.
Yep. He restored my car 12 years ago.
Okay.
okay.
Craig, did you have something you want to add?
I just wanted to say that balancing is critical. You don't want to just have somebody drill holes in it or try to take metal off of it. You've got to keep it balanced.
Right.
Great. And Mevik, I'm in the process of, Bob Abbott's rebuilding my BJ motor as we speak. And I ordered a new clutch, and the pressure plate's back ordered right now from Moss. So Dave, you may want to, I'm not sure if you found a better source than that, but the disc is back ordered to me. I've got the plate. I don't have the disc though. So I may have to look elsewhere.
Yeah, part two of my question, I guess. Not everybody has great things to say about Moss here and there. I know they do certainly sell a lot of Healey stuff, but that was part of my question also, Pete. Like, any vendor better than another for clutch and pressure plate type stuff?
I personally have been using Austin-Healey spares over in England for a lot of stuff. The shipping has been really quick, in some cases quicker than Moss. It'll be here in the States in 2 to 3 days. Shipping, of course, can be, especially for heavier, larger items. If you were buying, some big heavy things, shipping would be a little more. For clutch and pressure plate, I don't know that it would be prohibitively expensive, but I have found them to be, their parts to be, I've had no issues with them whatsoever. Fit and quality have been very good.
And I hear UPS Freight has great service from
Right.
the UK back.
Unfortunately, they use DHL, so I
Oh,
can't.
do they? Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And those of you Dave's a pilot for UPS. That's the reason I said that.
Thanks for the plug, though, Pete.
Absolutely. No. Absolutely. But in Bob Abbott, do you know, is Enid, is she still servicing clutch and flywheel? I mean, pressure plates?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Healy Surgeons, Dave Berube.
Okay. I'm going to pursue.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, as was mentioned there with the, I think you mentioned the Pete, not having the flywheel or I can't remember, but yeah, I'm gonna get going on it here. My engine should be done here in the next month.
Yes. So when I placed my order with Moss, they had the pressure plate. They didn't have the disc. The disc's on back order. So something to think about. Mark, are you on the call? Mark, you had a question regarding
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. And I think you're a fairly new member, right? You get a chance to meet with Richard and talk about the work you're doing on your BJ8.
Yeah,
original car.
yeah. No, he was super helpful. I went down and saw his BJ8. He only lives 10 minutes from me, and so it was really really great. He gave me a lot of good info, so I really appreciate that. I think, as I mentioned last call, I bought this. It's my first Healey, and I got it from a gentleman that's about 80 years old out in the Midwest. I took a look at it and everything, but I knew there were a couple of issues, so I'm kind of tackling those one by one. I've had some things happen that I'm not sure that they're related, but I wanted to just toss them out to everybody here. First off, the Overdrive, when I got it back here, and I put about 400 miles on it since August, so it isn't like I haven't driven it. The Overdrive started to become sort of intermittent, and then after, I would say, a couple hundred miles, it just doesn't operate at all. I've also noticed that without the Overdrive, the other day I was driving at about 45, 50 miles an hour, and it popped out of fourth and just back into neutral. So it's funny because the TAC is running really high, and he told me about this. So I can't really see, and I can't get a feel if the engine's just revving too high. I don't know if all those are related or not. But at any rate, the Overdrive is the first issue I got to tackle, but it bothered me a little bit that it popped out of fourth. So I don't know if that's anything, if there's anything common or if people have ever heard of that. But these are things I want to start to tackle over the winter, obviously. I'm just trying to knock them out one by one.
So is the Overdrive, is it intermittent, Mark, or is it not working at all now?
Not working at all now. It was initially fine. And interestingly enough, this 80-year-old gentleman told me with the Overdrive, he actually, when I went for the test drive with him, he clutched it every time, which I thought was, he just told me that's what he did. But on a lot of research, I know you don't have to clutch it, obviously. You actually need a little bit of torque. So I was a little surprised at that, but it started out fine. After a couple hundred miles, intermittent, and now nothing. So that's the answer to that question.
Okay. So what do people think? Relay most likely with the problem that Mark's experiencing with that?
That would
be solenoid.
Yeah, solenoid.
You can check the Overdrive if you take the transmission tunnel off. There's a lever on the right side. And I think if you get a 1/8 inch drill bit and push that lever forward, put it in the hole, it'll lock it in place and forward.
Okay.
And you can drive the car and you can, if the overdrive is working, it should be okay, but don't put the car in reverse if you do that. You will blow the transmission. You'll do a lot of damage. But it's the intermittent is probably the solenoid.
Solenoid.
It's probably
Yeah,
something electrical.
Yeah, I had an intermittent on mine, and the solenoid had been previously replaced. And I found out, it appeared to me, they didn't make the adjustment on the rod that you just mentioned. And it was very easy to do with, putting a drill in there, and then it was quite solid. But I'd start off with changing the fluids first to make sure you got enough, oil in it. And somewhere out on the internet, and if not on one of the Healey websites, there's a article that had been in Healey Mark about how to go through problems and step by step what to troubleshoot with it. And I used that when I first got my BN1. First time I drove it, it failed, the overdrive, and I shot the problem down to the relay using that procedure that was in Healey Mark, and it was the relay. And the other tip I'll have is if you have the Lucas number for the relay and you go out on Google or eBay and don't search by Healey relay, but the Lucas number, I found it's used on older Jaguars, and it was about $50 cheaper than buying a Healey relay. So, and it was Lucas, same one, but it was just way cheaper than buying one from Moss, same part number. So.
Wow, very helpful.
Does your car pop out of gear when you're coasting or when you're accelerating?
When I was accelerating.
Oh.
And you had it in fourth gear good when it popped out.
Correct.
And has it done more than once, Mark?
This is funny because a couple of weeks ago when I started having this intermittent issue with the overdrive, I flipped the overdrive. It didn't happen. And I, was kind of revving it right to about 50, and it did the same thing. And I wasn't sure if there was some sort of relationship there or not. I just didn't know. So
when you say revving it to 50, was that 5,000 RPMs?
Well, that's a separate issue because my TAC, when I started, it's at about 1,200. But if I'm doing 40 miles an hour, it's at 4,000 RPMs. If I'm doing 50 miles an hour, it's at 5,000 RPMs. So, and I knew it when I got it. He told me there's a problem with the TAC. I just thought it was a calibration problem. So I'm not sure if some of this is related or not. And since I haven't driven a Healey a lot, I'm also not sure if the engine's kind of over revving or not. So I've got a few issues here, I think.
Is the TAC in a BJ8 an electric TAC or cable driven?
I actually got the number off of it because in my research, I thought I needed to know that, and it's the number. I think I actually took the number off it. It's
Bob, isn't that an electric TAC in a BJ8?
Yes, it's an electric TAC.
And if it's like MGBs or stuff, there's a coil wire that goes around the back of a stud on the, and if it's wired wrapped the wrong way, would that have an effect?
It won't work at all. If the wire is wrapped the wrong way, it won't work at all.
I haven't done that to myself yet, but
I think you're just dealing with a calibration problem, and unless you're an electronic whiz and can build yourself a test meter, etc., your best bet's going to be to send it off to an instrument rebuilder, and they'll be able to rebuild it and calibrate it correctly, and then it'll work right. It's just a matter of the electronics inside the thing not being set quite right, so it's reading high. Consistent.
I'm not sure it's how helpful, but there are several apps that you can get for your smartphone that'll turn it into a strobe TAC, and they work beautifully.
Kelly, say that again. You convert your
You get
smartphone to a
you know,
track?
there's several apps you can download onto your smartphone.
Yeah.
And you dial in a TAC number and it flashes the light at exactly that speed. And you can find out exactly what speed anything's moving.
Wow.
You
Okay.
know, I just found out you can use your phone to make phone calls too.
I need to figure that one out.
Wow. I've never heard of that, Kelly.
I have a question for you. If you're in overdrive, you pull up to a space, it's necessary for you to reverse and go in reverse. When I first purchased my car, I was told, don't go in reverse when you're still in overdrive. Now, is that true?
Yes.
So what do you do if you pull into a spot at very
Take
quickly?
it out of overdrive.
Okay, you take it out of overdrive, but the car is not moving. Now you have to get in reverse to get out.
Bill.
Yeah.
The shifter has a switch on it. And
It does,
will only
okay.
allow the car to be in overdrive when it's over into 3/4 gate. As soon as
All right,
it
good.
moves over to the center, neutral, or to the left where 1 and 2 are, it's going to fall out of overdrive anyhow.
Good, thank
As
you.
soon as you bring it out of the far right-hand 3/4 gate, it's going to come out of overdrive, provided the switch is working right. If
A
it's not
follow-up
working
question.
right and it stays in overdrive, you'll feel it immediately. You'll try to back up and you'll think you have the wheels locked up. which you
Oh,
do.
okay.
You'll feel it immediately if you're stuck in overdrive.
A
Go
follow-up
ahead, Kelly.
question, if you don't mind. Yeah, I had to replace the solenoid on the overdrive. Everything worked fine. I ran it for about 1,000 miles. Everything's good. It's now gotten to where it's very slow to come out. If you switch off overdrive, it may stay on for, 3 or 4 miles before it drops out.
Ooh.
What model?
BJ8.
Now you mentioned clutching, that the previous driver clutched your car when you were doing the test drive. I've been doing that. I've read that online and I know it's not necessarily recommended. I find it works like a charm. It just feels smoother. It feels more positive. You don't get that clunk. I feel it's the way to do it. How many people?
I started doing that a year ago, Dave, because we talked about this on this call a year ago, and I started doing that as well.
I always use the clutch when I switch into and out of overdrive.
Yeah.
I just
Same here.
Smoother. It feels better.
I treat it like a gear.
Okay.
Are you saying that you engage the clutch and then put the overdrive on?
Yes.
Bob Abbott, what do you think?
I've always just shifted or flipped the overdrive without disengaging the clutch.
I've done the same thing I've owned 40 something years and I've never heard a clunk, and it's smooth. So I don't know what issues you might have if you haven't used the clutch to get rid of a clunk.
I kind of view it as double clutching with a transmission. You turn the switch out of overdrive and nothing happens. You give a little RPMs in the engine and it drops right out.
Well, that's
again, there's something wrong.
What?
The throttle switch on the firewall is adjusted wrong.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you, one suggestion, if you don't have it, there's a book that you can get from British Car Specialists out in Stockton, California. It's Norman Knox. I don't know how thick it is now, but I have, and you can get updates to it. But that book, if you buy it, it's about $30 or $35. I carry it with me everywhere. It's got just about any problem anybody's ever run into with an Austin-Healey, and it's got pictures and descriptions, and I would recommend it highly.
It's good.
Put that on the chat.
I could. If I can figure out how to do that, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's now Norman unfortunately passed away a number of years ago.
Yeah, but
David's his son, and he keeps updating it. It comes in a loose leaf binder, and as Bert talks about, it's great.
It is a great book.
I have a copy, inherited it with my BN1, but it's advertised in the classifieds by British Car Specialists, the classified section of British Mark. So if you get British Mark, It's in the
Healy Mark.
classifieds.
I think he advertises in Healy Mark too.
I meant Healy Mark. What did I say?
Yeah, you
Said
said
British.
Mark. Okay.
British Mark, I'm sorry.
Just say the name again.
British Car Specialists.
Stockton, California.
David
Right.
Knock.
NOCK.
That's the author?
That's it.
Yes.
His father is the author. He now does the updates since his father died. They come up, whenever they come up with a new problem, he prints out a page and you can buy the updates once or twice a year for $5 or $10.
And I'm sorry, what was the title again? Thank you.
The name of his company is British Car Specialists in Stockton, California. They're advertised in the back of Healy Mark.
Yeah, Randy's pointing it, Randy Elkins is showing it right now. It's orange. It's called Tech Talk. Austin-Healey, can you see on your screen? Randy, say something so you'll say
Okay, I'm
something.
saying something. I don't know if I'm.
That's it.
You? Wait a minute here.
That's good, Randy. Yeah, Tech Talk.
Hey, Pete,
Yeah.
I just posted in chat. Most, if not all, of the back issues of Healy Mark are contained on the Austin-Healey Club of America website. And in the members only section. So you have to sign in with a password. You have to set one up if you don't have one. And I just posted all the Overdrive articles on Healy Mark. So all those ones that you know, if you're researching a tech article, you can go in there and find lots of stuff on almost any issue, not just Overdrive, you know, carburetors, everything. It's a real useful source.
Yep. So, but one of the early things it brought up, and I think Ted, you brought up, is Kelly and Mark, have you checked your oil? Did you have the proper fluid in the transmission, straight 30 weight? That's, you know, the first and the easiest place to start.
Well, first thing is look under the car and how big a puddle of oil. Then you know if you can put oil in it.
Yeah. No, interestingly enough, I had asked him, because that was the first thing I wanted to do, and he said he hadn't checked it in a couple of years, and his health was not good, and he hadn't driven it a lot, but he did have new carpet to put it in, and the carpet had that snap under it. Well, turns out I go under the snap. I'm digging through, you know, layers of plastic and insulation to try to find a little rubber boot cover. And I had to tear up part of the carpet because that snap wasn't quite in the right place.
Okay.
But anyway, I finally got to it. The oil looked pure. It was full. Didn't appear to be a problem. And I'm pretty sure it's 30 weight.
Okay.
I really want to make
Hey, Peter,
copy
I have a question on oil. Has anyone tried Redline MTL in lieu of 30 weight straight? And the reason I ask that, as some of you know, I'm in the process of restoring a Morgan. And on the Morgan forums, a lot of people, the Morgan gearbox also requires 30 weight. And a lot of people on the forums on that site are recommending Redline MTL. And it says it improves the shifting of old clunky gearboxes. I was just wondering if anyone's tried it in a Healey.
I have it in my Sprite. I've had it in there for probably 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And it shifts a lot better. You don't have to change it as often, I don't think.
I mean, it's supposedly the same weight as a 30 weight. You know, it's an SAE 30, but you know, it's a synthetic oil. But I was just curious.
I had I had Redline in my BT7, and it really improved the leaking ability of the transmission, but I couldn't tell if it changed the shifting at all. So I just went back to regular old non-detergent 30.
So you're saying it leaked more, Larry?
It leaked like a sieve.
Okay.
Because it was probably synthetic, right? Because
Yeah.
Isn't that the deal with synthetics?
That's the experience I had. I put it in a Sprite and it leaked like crazy.
Okay, that's a good reason to stay away.
In your gearbox?
We got
Dave?
enough leaks.
Yeah.
In your gearbox? Okay.
Yeah, I put it in a Sprite, in a smooth case Sprite, and it leaked like crazy.
Okay. Well, that's good. So Mark, it sounds like you have a number of opportunities there to improve the the efficiency of your Healy. So, I think starting, as Bob mentioned, with that tachometer, it's easy to take out and send that off. Again, if you go onto the members only section of the website, it has a list of people. Nossingers is one of the companies that does that. So again, so if you go onto the members only section of the website, the password is Healy lowercase. So there's no special password. Everyone's got the same one. So it's just for all the members, Healy lowercase, to get into the members only section on the website. But I would check that out. It sounds like you got your solenoid, possibly the issue with the
overdrive.
With the overdrive, and I would give it a little more drive and see if you can replicate with that not coming out of gear. Are you? I think someone asked you, are you sure you had it in fourth all the way? That sometimes makes a difference too. And Dave's asking you about that. Was it when it popped, when you were decelerating? That's quite often when they'll pop out, is under deceleration.
And when you're coasting.
Yeah, when you're coasting. Okay, well that's good. That's good to know. I hadn't. I will do that. Try to replicate it. And I did get on the website, the members only page, and I got that information too. So, yeah, thank you all very much. I appreciate this info. Very helpful.
Great.
Well, with the solenoid, make sure you check the electrical connections before you go and replace it. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So you got a little bit of work, Mark, there with, you have to remove the transmission tunnel. You got the tonneau, not the console, excuse me, and everything around the gear shift. So it's a modest amount of work to do. It's easier on the earlier cars.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
But it's it's not horrific. So, but
okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
One more tip. Just check the carpet or maybe the shift boot is in the right place and isn't biting against the gear shift lever and pushing it out of gear. Because I had that happen on a Volvo once. Drove me crazy. I thought I was going to have it all rebuilt. The dealer says, "No, your shift boot's wrong." That's all it was.
You can also
$36 rather than hundreds.
You can also get stray carpet or insulation over down inside the mechanism.
Yeah.
It'll get down in there and jam it up.
Is that right? And he just had the carpet redone too. So
That's the first thing to check.
Wow. Okay. Great.
And always start with the easiest things first. No, seriously. We sometimes overthink these things, and we go for the tough things first. Do the easy things first.
Well, the owner gave me an extra overdrive switch, and I don't know why he did that, but I have one sitting in there. I'm like, okay. So I was going to start easy first, believe me. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
sounds
all.
good. Excellent. So, Carl, you have a question regarding your replacing your battery on your BJ8. Carl, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
There I go. Finally got it off. Yeah. This is no technical problem, but it is kind of a curiosity to me, and I thought maybe somebody had a quick answer. My battery's getting old and tired and so on, and it needs to be replaced. But it looks like it's a funny size. And I looked in the shop manual, and they gave me some old numbers when the cars were built of PT9A or PTZ9A, which is a dry version. And it looks like it's too fat and not long and thin. Does anybody, where would you go to find a Healy battery that's kind of made to fit there rather than just one off the store shelf?
Well, Carl, do you want a concourse battery or do you just want a regular battery?
Well, let me give you some dimensions on it. The one that I have is 10 inches wide and 7 inches deep. And it looks to me from the tie down links, brackets, and the drip pan underneath it, 12-inch wide and a 6-inch deep would be a lot better. And
It is.
Yep.
That's the better one, the long and thin?
Yeah. You can get it at
Okay, and
Walmart.
just any auto supply store, just go put it in a tape
AutoZone.
measure?
Anywhere.
Carl, go get a Group 27 battery, and that's what you want.
Group 27?
It's a big battery.
Group 27.
Yep. All
Okay.
batteries are made under a group number, and no matter whose battery it is, if it says group 27 on it or has 27 in the number, that's the one you want.
Thanks a lot, Bob. And Bob, I never got a chance to thank you for the last 2 times you saved me. When I couldn't start the engine, and when I found out that what it was the wiring, that I had replaced a slave cylinder on the clutch and put the wire back in the wrong place. Everything was dead.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Well,
what the
Lucas
other one
gets
was.
blamed for everything.
You can tell I'm not much of an expert on this game.
Well, no, obviously you came to the right place, Carl. So that's great. Group 27, and you're right. That's going to give you more space, so you can store an extra quart of oil there instead of having that big battery there, or you can store the things back there on
I
that
just
tray.
bought some oil, and it's engine oil from what was it? I don't know, one of the auto supply stores, and they had a Valvoline 20W50 with extra zinc in it. Is
Yep.
that what I'm looking for?
VR1 racing oil. Yep, that's what I use.
Okay. Thank
But
you.
there are other ones out there too. I think Bob
Yeah.
sells Brad Penn, and there are other ones out there. But you definitely want to have the ZDDP, which is the zinc.
And one other thing, and playing around with that starting problem, I found a broken rotor. It was a red replacement type rotor, and it was in 2 pieces when I took the cover off.
Wow.
That was easy to fix.
Well, that's good. But yeah, rotors are, yeah, that's what I mean, Mark. Do the simple things first. Look at, don't replace the distributor. You find a broken rotor. So that's great. So other questions that people have tonight?
May I ask?
Let Ted go first, if you don't mind. Go ahead, Ted.
Not at all.
I've got a question about waterless coolant for a car. Evans makes a waterless coolant that boils at something like 300 degrees. And it has pretty good heat transfer. It doesn't rust. There's no water, so it doesn't cause any rust. I was wondering if anybody had any experience with waterless coolant.
I've been using it in a Sprite.
You've been using it?
Yeah, I've had it in a Sprite for 3 years. I was having an overheat problem, and I've been happy with it so far. It seemed to help settle the heating problem down a little bit.
There's apparently only one manufacturer, that's Evans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Besides-
I used it on a TVR with a TR6 engine, and they always overheat. They're messed up the way they but it made a big difference, and I was extremely happy with it. The only problem is you got to worry about somebody, if you put a drop of water in it, it's totally trashed.
Really?
Well, you've got to prep your cooling system too, I imagine, get it clean and.
Right, you gotta flush it out, get rid of all the H2O,
really?
the old stuff, and then you put it in. And I like the fact that it wouldn't boil,
Right.
even when the engine got hot, you didn't have to worry about it over pressurizing.
Right.
But
They sell a prep that you put through that sucks the water out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
System with it.
you got to do the prep first.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure you get the full system cleaned out, because there are pockets where the old coolant can kind of hide out on you. So you got to really flush it out well.
And it doesn't cause your car to run any hotter, I guess.
No, it actually makes it cooler because it has better contact with the metal. So it transfers heat better than water with antifreeze.
Yeah, good to know. Now, do you buy that locally or do you have to send for it?
I bought it on Amazon.
If you have an Amazon Prime membership, shipping is free. You can buy a case of oil and it'll show up at your house a couple days later for no shipping, and the price is the same. as
Yeah,
if
I
you
buy
under.
a lot of Prime, yeah. Well,
Ted,
thanks.
have you tried water wetter?
I have, yeah. I think that helps. I don't know how to quantify it, but yeah.
It's the same. The difference with this stuff is with water, when you get hot, it starts to create bubbles on the surface, and that reduces the amount of surface area that you get for cooling. So,
I don't wanna look like
when it doesn't boil, it keeps things cooler.
I mean, how much of it do you need to buy? And you gotta fill the whole system with it?
Oh, yeah. You got to totally replace all the coolant.
What does that cost?
Well, I'm gonna, the prep is as much as the coolant, and I think it was about $135 for both each, you know.
You're overthinking.
I've had good luck with the water
There's gotta be
wetter.
another-
Have you, Les? Yeah, I have used it too occasionally.
What's
I
that?
haven't any problems with it.
It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Check your timing.
Well, the TVR has a radiator that's like 10 inches tall and 3 feet wide, and the tubing, you have to burp it from the top, from the actually the heater, because you can't
get the air out.
It's a mess. It just, the car was never designed for the engine, so.
Right. Gary Esposito, I think you had a question, didn't you?
Yeah, yes, sorry. Yes, I do. For the first time in a long time, for the first time that I've owned this car, I blew one of the freeze plugs blew out as I was driving along in November. Getting back, I've never had to deal with the freeze plugs before. So, and quite honestly, I've often wondered, like, what do they do? What are their purposes and so forth? And again, has anybody had to replace the plugs? And I assume it would make sense to, there must be multiple ones there. I don't know how many there are, but I imagine if you're going to replace one, you should be replacing all of them. So can anybody tell me anything about freeze plugs? It's on a 106.
Freeze plugs were put in the engine as part of the casting process. They had to be put in there so that the metal could flow properly and stuff. And also some of them were drilled out so they could get to the oil passages and things like that for the internals of the engine. They're really not in there for the water, although some of them are in the water holes, and they do rust out because they're just steel. Usually we only replace freeze plugs when we have the engine out of the car, because it's so difficult to get the old freeze plugs out. Even if you've got one that's leaking a lot, it's still hard to get in the engine compartment and get a puller on it and pull it out. So normally we do it when we have an engine out of the car and we replace everything in all of the freeze plugs in the engine. Barring that, if you have one plug that's blown, and it's happened with cars I know, and it's happened to a car I had, what we did is use a boiler plug, which is a rubber plug with a big heavy washer on both sides and a nut that when you squeeze the nut, it expands the plug. And they come in various sizes, and you can find one that will fit right into that freeze plug hole and tighten it up. And my 104 still has a boiler plug in it that has been there for 6 years. And it's fine.
So, and how many freeze plugs are there? Are when you say
depends on the 4-cylinder engines probably have 4 large ones and 4 smaller diameter ones. Wow. And the 6-cylinder engines probably have 5 and 5. So, there's some along one side, there's 2 on the other side, there's 3 in the back of the engine, and the one that's in the front of the engine, I don't think you could get to. I don't think you'll get to without taking the timing chain cover off of
And are some more susceptible of blowing or corroding faster
The
than
ones
others?
that I've had to replace in tutu while the engine was still in the car always tends to be the one in the rear of the engine, right up against the firewall, where there's no room to work and get it out of there. So, it's a bit
So
tricky to
Gary,
get
did
the
yours
old plate.
pop right out?
It popped right out, yeah.
So you got a hole now?
It got a hole now, and yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, the coolant just ran out like a river. I mean, it was, yeah.
So is the one in the rear that Bob was
I don't
suggesting?
know
is-
yet. I haven't gotten in there, but I haven't taken a look yet, but if it is that one, then maybe it makes sense, as Bob suggested, that I know that kind of rubber plug you're talking about. Maybe that's a trick, because I certainly don't.
Any plumbing supply store or big hardware store will have boiler plugs.
Yeah, I know that plug you're
And
talking.
they're good for 45 or 50 pounds of pressure when you get them tightened in. So there's certainly going to be plenty of ability to hold the 7 pounds that your cooling system, that your antifreeze system will have in it, because you have a 7-pound radiator cap on the car.
All right, well, that's excellent. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
A lot better than pulling the engine, Gary, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Well, if you can get to it. So I mean, that's the important thing is can you get to it?
Yeah, exactly. All right,
Right.
I'll check that out.
Okay.
You know, you guys were talking about batteries while I got you. You guys were talking about batteries, and I constantly get like a flaky corrosion type thing on one of the terminals at the rear of the battery. What causes that? You know what I'm talking about? It's like a white gray.
Yep,
Just electrolysis.
electrolysis, just baking soda and water, put it on there and then wash it off.
Use an old toothbrush and scrub it off.
So there's no way to stop it at all.
No.
It's just a normal part of the process.
Well, you can get those pads, there's a green and a red pad that you can put on the post.
Yep.
And then they have a spray also that you can spray on.
Okay.
You can get that in any auto parts store has that, Gary.
Okay.
Those post rings.
Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, now I know what you mean.
What
Yeah.
Bert's talking about. Yeah,
Yes,
you
that's
got
a-
one for
that's a-
positive, one for negative.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. Yep. All right.
Might be just a rumor, but I had heard that that's one of the advantages of having a positive ground car is that's less likely to happen. But I'm not sure that that's true either.
Not sure. I hadn't heard that. So, any other questions
Thank
for
you very
tonight?
Football.
Yes,
John?
sir. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
John.
Go back to the overdrive. Would someone run through the proper procedure for switching up to overdrive and down on an electrical overdrive system?
I think most people say you just switch it on and off. But there are some of us that are now using our clutch when we go in and out of overdrive. But, you know, I think Bob will tell you that it shouldn't be necessary, but there are some of us that are doing that.
But why would you do that? I guess as I heard that tonight, and I never even thought of that. Clutching certainly before you go down, but before you go up to. I'm just confused as to what the current thinking is on the use of overdrive.
Well, that it will go in and out smoother than, you know, sometimes it can be a little abrupt when they go in and out of overdrive. So that's the reason that I've been doing. I started a couple of years ago doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's made any difference or not, but I am doing it.
Do you do it going into overdrive and out?
Yes, I do.
I do too.
Okay.
And when you go out, you put the clutch in, you have to blip the throttle to get the throttle switch to release it.
Right.
Oh, some new towels?
Yes.
No. Right, dishes. Oh.
Plus, it sounds better when you shift.
Okay, okay, thank you.
So, well, I've got a question regarding enclosed trailers. Anyone out there with an enclosed trailer for towing your Healy, and any recommendations and any size that you recommend?
I have one.
Dave?
That was,
Mine is a regular box trailer, so it's 7 feet wide. It's not technically a car hauler, so it's a little on the narrow side. Now you're a small enough guy, you can squeeze in and out, but it can be a little tight with a big Healy. With a Sprite, it's no big deal. With a big Healy, it's a little tight getting in and out. If you go with a true car hauler, it'll be 8 feet wide, and there's more room to maneuver in and out of the car, to physically get in and out of the car. Mine is 16.
Yes, we're reading it.
Mine is 6 feet long, and it has a V nose on it. That doesn't count in the length, and that's plenty for the car. It's plenty long for the car. I put a winch in it so that I could winch the car on and off if I needed to. But the difference between the 7 foot and the 8 foot wide trailer is that with the 8 foot, you need mirror extensions on your tow vehicle to see around it. You can't quite see around the trailer like with standard, if you're using an SUV or something like that, you can't see around it. Where with the narrower trailer, you can get by without the mirror extensions.
How about
How long's your trailer, Dave?
What?
How long is the trailer?
16 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about your ramp? How about your ramp height though? Is that a problem?
How about which? I'm sorry.
Your ramp height?
The ramp is not an issue on mine. It's plenty long enough, as long as you're on a level ground. If you start getting on inclines and things, you can have a problem. I've had that happen on my driveway, taking the BJ7 out where we had to, improvise and jack things up to make it work. But under normal circumstances, my Sprite, my 100, and my BJ7 don't have any problem with the ramp.
I can try to add something to that.
Please.
In that I've had 2 enclosed trailers. My first one, both of them were car trailers. My first one was 18 feet long, and I enjoyed the space that extra 2 feet gave me for carrying a spare tire up there. It gave me more room to put a winch in, or the blocks that just the minutia that you carry with you when you have a trailer. It gave me that much more room. And especially it gave me enough room that I could set the car where I wanted it in the trailer and still be able to lie down in front of it to put my tie down straps on the frame of the car. My current trailer is 20 feet long, and I enjoy the extra footage there as much as I did the 18-foot trailer. The one mistake I did make, and I would caution anybody that's looking for a trailer, is to make sure that the bed of the trailer has a duckbill rear end to it, where the back 4 feet drop down lower, so that the angle that the tailgate creates when it's laid down allows you to get your low hung Healy exhaust over it without contacting the transition spot there. My current trailer doesn't have that, and I've had to make little wooden bolsters or little ramps to lay under the back of the trailer. Just made them out of pieces of wood, but I have to use those so that the angle where the ramp meets the trailer isn't too sharp. Because if it is, you'll catch your buckles on it on a roadster anyhow.
A lot of those trailers, can you hear me?
Yeah.
A lot of those trailers have a 13 to 15 degree turn up there. I actually looked at one that finally found it with 11 degrees. So I have no problem clearing anything as I go up. I have a 16-foot trailer, and the one when it was made had 11 degrees, the ramp. So as you're saying, that you probably have a 13 to 15 degree bump up there, and that's where you're hitting a lot. So if you look into a trailer and you can find one with that lower degree angle, you'll be better off.
Okay, thanks, Randy.
Peter, I got a Hallmark 20-foot. The fenders, the actual wheel fenders are inside the trailer. So the trailer is a full 8'6" legal width on the road. It's also got a duck bill back to it. And having 20 feet, you're right on the money. What I did is when I leveled everything off, got everything set up, I threw one car in, which is a 28 Ford. And then I measured the drop that I was getting on my tongue. And then I marked it right on the floor, exactly where the front tires should be. And then later on, and that's when we towed it to Kanab from Ottawa, Canada.
Okay.
And then we towed last year at this time, as a matter of fact, we would have left a day ago. We took the Healy and we towed it to Marana. And I had it marked on the floor as well. And the Hallmark was a delightful thing to tow. I was running, 64, 65 miles an hour, 10 hours a day. It was good.
Great. Now, anyone have the ratcheting systems inside the trailer where you can put the straps onto the tires and ratchet it down that way?
I have that.
You like that, Dave?
Yeah, they're bonnets. They're called bonnets. They go over each tire. And then I've got the track in the floor, so it goes down through the track and connects to the track. And it's a very secure system. Uses nylon straps.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to crawl underneath. The duckbill drop is good. You can reach underneath and get to your tie downs if you do it that way. That's particularly nice. But if you have just a flat floor, you can use the bonnets and tie it down that way. And it works quite well.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I found with a trailer, I towed my bug eye from San Diego back to St. Paul, Minnesota back in about 1995. And I used a 12-foot long U-Haul trailer, an enclosed one. And without the front bumper, it fit in nicely. And I was just able to shim it with blocks of wood and 2x4s on either side, front and back. And it survived the trip. No abrasion or anything. And just so that's another option.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I'm looking for one that can do both big Heelys and Sprites. So
yeah,
the U-Haul won't help with the big Heely stuff. So
yeah.
Any other questions out there tonight?
Well, I sent a question in this morning, but I was kind of late, so I can
Okay,
wait
Kelly,
for the
go
next-
ahead.
I can wait for the next time. The BJ8, I think we've got her working well. We've put about 4,000 miles on her now. The only problem I got left is that in hot weather, slow traffic, I start to get fuel starvation. I think the fuel's, boiling off. I've put extra shields on. I've even put a fan on the
Heat
thing.
shields. Okay.
Yeah, put a fan on the thing. Can't sort it out. My next step is to put recirc back to the tank, and I'm wondering if there's a better way.
So fuel starvation when it gets hot.
Is it acting more like vapor lock?
It is vapor lock.
Okay, well, I had that problem on my BN4 where if I filled up with gas, I'd get about 100 feet down the road and it would just dead stop for it and I'd sit for half an hour. I started using a product. It's can't think I get it at Walmart. It's for neutralizing the ethanol in your gas. And what's happening is the engine compartment gets so hot that the ethanol is boiling in your. And since I started using this for every tank full, I have not had a single bit of problem with vapor lock.
Is that Nick? Is that Startron that you're using?
No, it's strictly for ethanol.
Got a name for it?
Out in the car.
What color is it, Nick?
No, it looks like it's about the size of like a Lucas
the color.
bottle, but it says
All right.
ethanol on it. My wife is going to go out to the garage and get a bottle of it.
Oh, you're spoiled there, Nick. Jeez, you're making Alice do
I am.
all that kind of hard work, huh? Any other thoughts for Kelly regarding the experience with vapor lock or?
Yeah, it's the only time this happens is, it's really hot and you're sitting in traffic and you set it light a little bit, and it stutters and pops a little bit as you head out and smooths out within 2 miles.
So Dave, you were saying you were having similar problems with yours?
I had that problem with my Sprite, and I put a heat wrap on the manifold to keep the heat coming off the manifold, because that brilliant engineering puts the hottest part of the engine right underneath your carburetors.
Right.
So it's a natural heat problem there built into it. I think there is an issue with the modern gas with the additives and everything. It's not quite as good as efficient as the old stuff used to be at just being pure burning stuff. But I think the ethanol is a problem, but I think the heat coming up off the manifold, you can some people take off the manifolds and they coat them, they ceramic coat them. That keeps the heat coming down. I also heard I just talked to a mechanic the other day. He said that the heat shields can lose their effectiveness. They can break down. The material underneath can break down and it can lose its effectiveness. So that can be an issue too, that the insulating material underneath can break down and it's really not an effective heat shield anymore.
Yeah, I've wrapped and shielded, and I've even put a small high-speed fan right on the carburetors, and it all helped, but not all the way there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about putting
Excuse me,
reserve back to the tank? Has
there's
anybody
a product that there's a product at Walmart called Seafoam. I'm wondering if that's what it was that he used.
Yeah, I've seen Seafoam before, but I'm not sure if that's it, Nick.
Has anybody
just
put a
on my-
recirculation line back to the tank?
We use the seafoam to decarbonize the engines. I know that. I don't know if it puts in the gasoline, run it through the carburetors, let them sit through the engine for an hour or so, and then start it up and the carbon goes flying out. But I don't know that it actually does it into the gas.
I think Nick just found, Alice came to the rescue.
It's called Lucas ethanol fuel conditioner with stabilizer.
Okay.
Is the gas cap vented in any way you're supposed to be?
It's. Has anybody run a return line back to the tank to keep the fuel circulating at some low level?
Doesn't sound like we have, Kelly, does it?
Roger that. I think that's my next try is take a 16th inch or something and bypass back to the tank from right by the carburetors.
I think if you do a Google search, you'll see somebody's on there that's done that, because I seem to recall coming across that.
Appreciate it, guys.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, just a reminder that this Saturday, we'll have our annual general meeting. It'll be via Zoom as well. So we got the AGM. I will be sharing that amongst other things that Rick will be facilitating, but we will just have an update and a sharing of the results of the 2020 member survey. So thank all those who did complete the survey, and we'll give you the results from that on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Rick, anything else you want to add?
No, I will send out a reminder with the Zoom link and hope to see you all there. Unfortunately, we won't all be having a free breakfast or free lunch on the club. Bring your own sandwiches, I guess. But please participate. We'll be nominating officers and directors and talking about where the club will be going in 2021 and what we can realistically look forward to doing as far as meetings go, and generally taking care of the business for the club for the year. I just wanted to add, I've learned that Conclave 2021 at Big Bear has been, I don't know whether postponed or canceled, but that is now off the table, and Amelia Island has been postponed off till May. So we're still in the heart of COVID, and we're going to have to make whatever adjustments we're going to have to make in order to make the club function for another year.
So Rick, just curious, where did you see that about the Conclave 2021?
Chuck Anderson told me. I talked to him yesterday, and he told me.
Okay, I was asking Gary about it today and he hadn't heard that. He said they were looking to move it to the summer, but the hotel was then looking summer rates, but I just.
So I don't know, as I said, I don't know whether it's been canceled or postponed, but it's not gonna take place when they thought.
It was May.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising, but, so, okay. Other, things people want to add tonight before we close?
I just
Okay.
want to thank people for their comments about the windshield. That's helpful.
You're welcome,
Good
Dave.
discussion group.
Well, thank you all for participating and joining in on the call this evening. Again, it's the second Monday of the month, and we'll be doing it again. And again, appreciate you getting your questions in advance. Gives a chance for Rick, Ted, Bob, and I to get a chance to do a little bit of research in advance. So thank you for that, and hope to see you guys on Saturday. And look forward to hearing about any projects you got going on. So thank you all and have a good night.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night, Peter. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.